they're gonna do something special for my grandmother,
Oh,
so.
yeah. So, you know, just put on Minha and I've worked with our service.
Okay.
He's a smart guy, you know, I don't have to agree with everybody's.
Nice. What's that? Nice tribute tonight.
So which Ollie Allen am I doing?
You wrote something making laws matters,
So-
which.
Excuse me. So we'll do, well, if you're doing the third aliyah,
Right.
then we can do the Mali right after that, so why don't we do that?
Okay.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so,
You know, comes
So
down to
if
finding
someone else
a
do the second?
Yeah, so we have Brian on the first and then Eric's on the second.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, so I'll come up.
No.
Yeah.
It's true. In LA?
If I don't want my
We're
tongue.
just gonna wait a couple
Great.
more minutes,
Oh,
just
okay.
the regular show up.
Yeah.
I say people don't listen to California, the Bay Area is like the whole other, just so nice.
Then,
What better, weather's better here.
More people in your high school moved up there. That makes them more interesting.
And you were in Monterey because you were at UCSC or?
I was at the Middlebury Institute.
Is your arm okay, Rabbi?
What's that?
Is your arm okay?
You know, it's still, there's still pain there from the accident all those years ago.
Oh.
So
Right.
I just massage it out.
Oh, okay, yeah, I heard of that.
Finding that spot that still hurts.
oh
gotcha.
jeez, worse than I did.
Yeah.
I fractured this
That's
whole,
good.
this whole arm right
You know,
here. Like it's so brutally pain. I slept, I don't know what I did, but I think I got something at work. Because I work in a wellness cafe now, I think I just pulled a muscle or something.
Mine was the military, I learned a
Whole
lot.
arm was like
West
hurting.
Point was
I
great.
was like sleeping on an air mattress the whole time. And I, like, I
Sociology
don't
was
know.
created all kinds of things.
For sure.
Much of
The space program.
So I want to be clear with what I said after we
You know,
got on
budget.
Torah.
And
Um,
also learned that.
I'll hold it,
Right.
I'll hold it,
Right.
I'll hold it.
Right.
And it's, and then,
People in
baby, can you
general
hold up
sort
my
of
grandmother's picture?
quite
Yeah.
Do that? Okay.
We'll see if.
Perfect. She never had a Hebrew name, so that was pretty
Okay.
strange. She never had a Hebrew name.
Because last time they took
So,
one.
but I
He
remember
wanted- he
two
wanted to
things my
use
grandmother.
nuclear
One,
weapons. Yeah,
my
business
great
guys.
grandmother Ruben taught her how to sew.
Right.
Taught her, he was a tailor, so basically she was, you know, sewing. She sewed my mom's wedding dress. Top of that, she cared for others before she put herself first.
Put it
I
on
don't
board
know,
shelf.
Yeah.
I worry about the
Sounds
Ukraine, but
basic.
you know about the Olympics, you ever see the Olympics? You ever notice that in the wrestling category, or wait, that there's always a Ukrainian?
I think this was taken at my
There's
house.
a reason for that.
Oh,
I
nice.
think so, I'm not,
Fighters
we
like
think.
the-
That's the old sofa.
Oh, wow. I can't tell that there was
You
the
know, they're
background yet.
Cossacks.
Yeah, I think that's from the old house.
Oh,
That's
wow.
probably from my house.
Oh,
They
okay.
invented a new form of warfare, 10,000 armed drones
Oh
a
my
month.
God. Yeah, it was
The
one
only
week
reason
older
they're in
than
trouble is
this.
that Russians are killed by.
1 week.
Amazing, and it's a Polaroid.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
Polaroid.
It's
This is
not
what they
anymore.
had back then, yeah.
Great.
And I'm not losing this photo, this is the only photo I wanted. Took it right out of a picture, right out of a picture album that my grandma had. It was me and my brother, so I just grabbed this one, 'cause this is the only one I liked. I always had a crush on this
It's
one,
like
this one.
Tomas
This
on
one.
steroids.
I have to get it framed.
Moderated.
I wonder if you can digitize it, so you know, if it's the only one that you like and have.
Yeah, I can digitize it, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna digitize it.
I worry what's
Put
gonna
it-
happen internationally.
Yeah, I can do that, but, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna digitize all my baby
frankly,
pictures and put those on
In
a
Israel,
disc.
I'm surprised
Oh, yeah,
they
this is-
couldn't get rid of.
The owner of Legacy Box? Oh, it's that's a service that does that. They advertise on the radio all the time, so I know about them.
Mm.
Yeah, they do that digitizing thing. They put you on a disc or in the cloud.
It's all built
Wow.
around the economy. People.
They do that with old videotapes too.
They'll let- they don't
Not just
care.
photos.
China, I asked one woman, she was intelligent.
Yeah,
she would have-
Can you just stand outside the 7-Eleven asking people if they're Jewish?
But a lot of people will say yes.
Yeah, so
Politics are relevant.
yeah, they mostly advertise that mostly when I listen to KNX, the news station. I often hear them there. Hear their ads on that station.
And the other thing is about the mountain fire, the update is 17% contained, and we didn't have to evacuate. It was like shocking, because I was all prepared, I packed up all my grandmother's stuff, all my stuff, all the
Hong Kong, I was
pictures.
there in Hong Kong.
Put those on in the car,
For a campaign.
Don't have to
She
evacuate.
sent me over there.
Better be prepared than not prepared.
yeah, I was all prepared. I had so much stuff at his place, that was all in the car.
Right.
I got lucky. That's another
So
story.
we were very lucky that we saved
When I was
property.
there, I said, how could these intelligent people?
I just feel good.
They
Brian gets back off Minha. Oh, there you are. I didn't see you there. Sorry.
When I can't control.
One floor. One more. I counted improperly and forgot where you'd gone.
Thank you.
Yeah, I went through Nixon, I thought he was the worst ever. I went through Reagan, I thought he was the worst ever. The Bushes.
But my mom thinks the date.
We didn't have homes since the Reagan.
We're gonna start for a second, and it doesn't look like we're gonna have a
You
minute.
know, they decided, well, it's
So
not
what we're probably gonna do is skip the tour service, but, still do the El Mali, the El Mali, I'll give it a few minutes.
Okay,
Maybe
okay,
pass it
perfect,
around.
yeah, that's perfect.
Put another half
Yeah.
cent sales tax on.
Man, this is old, I do a food truck.
Right,
Food
yeah.
truck.
Yesterday was LA ballot where they added, so a quarter cent sales tax was gonna expire.
When it go, look at my eyes,
Makes
baby.
sense.
Are they shutting it?
They start, the labor movement got their
They're
signatures.
open flight.
Labor, these
Yeah.
working groups.
Yeah, man.
So they got it passed, they did the work.
It's actually how like big.
Anybody upstairs?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Unless someone's passed out in their office or something. I don't think so.
Page, babe.
Where's 214? Where's the other intern?
It's a
She
different time.
is nursing a back injury right now.
I got back at 2 o'clock.
Viva?
Yeah, she'll be fine, but she told me, she's like, I wanted to come, but I just don't think I think I should just like take it easy. I was like, yeah, that's.
That makes sense.
So as you can see, we don't have a minion quite yet, but since we're already almost 10 minutes past, we're gonna past the starting time. We're gonna go ahead and get started, which means we're likely gonna skip the tour service. But hopefully some more people walk in. But just wanna let us all know what's going on here. Okay. So we're gonna start with Ashrei on page 214 in the red Lev Shalem. אשרי יושבי ביתך עוד יחלוך סלע. תהילת אדוני ידבר בי, ויברך כל בשר כשם קודשו לעולם ועד, ואנחנו נברך ים את עבר עולם הללויה. ובא לציון קודש. אתה קדוש יושבי תהילות ישראל, וקרא זה לזה ואמר, קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות בארץ כבודו. ותישאני רוח ואשמע אחרי כל רעש גדול, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צדקתך צדק לעולם ותורתך אמת, תיתן אמת ליעקב חסד לאברהם, אשר נשבעת לאבותינו מימי קדם. ברוך אדוני יום יום יעמוס לנו האל ישועתנו סלע. אדוני צבאות עמנו. ויבטחו בך יודעי שמך, כי לא עזבת דורשך אדוני. אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויהדליל. So in the app, huh? Yes, thank you. But before we do move forward with the Amidah, we do have an El Mali Rachamim in remembrance. If you would like to come on up, we can.
Husband of Edward Itzhak Zorn. His wife. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. This week was my grandmother's yard side. This was my mom's mom, which is basically my mom's mom. She was basically caring. She was basically like the caring type of person. She always put people that she cared about in first before her. And my great grandfather Reuben taught her how to sew. He was a tailor, so she sewed everything, and then she made my mother's wedding dress
Whoa.
from
Mm,
scratch.
that's amazing.
From
Nice.
scratch without buying it. So I'm gonna pass. Joey's gonna pass it around so you guys can see what my grandmother looks like. That was when I was a baby. I was a 1 week old, and that was when I was and my eyes are like a little shut. Yeah, so that was my grandmother, and she had never had a Hebrew name, and so she was a beloved grandmother, and she was a beloved mother to my mom and to my mom's sister. So she was a beloved, caring woman.
Nice.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom. אל מלא רחמים, שוכן במרומים, המוצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, גזר הרקיע מזהירים, לנשמת פי של אליזבת שתכחה לעולמה, בגן עדן תמנוחתה. הנם בעל הרחמים, הסירה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בשרור חיים את נשמתה. ה' הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר Amen. May the memories of your grandmother be a blessing, and thank you so much for sharing those memories with
You're
us.
welcome. And the next year I'll tell you it's my grandma Gertie, but she had a Hebrew name. Get one.
So we are going to continue with our silent Amidah on page 223. you're still davening a private Amidah, please continue to do so. We're going to come together at the top of page 230. צדקך צדק לעולם, ותורתך אמת. צדקך אלוהים עד מרום, אשר עשית גדולות אלוהים מי כמוך. צדקך מקרל, משפטך תהום רבה, אדם ובהמה תושיע אדוני. יתגדל ויתגדל שמי רבה, ועל מה דברה קרתי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון וביום החון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלל בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתמם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ותעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל שלום להון רבה והון לכל ישראל לכל רמה והון דשמיא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיא וחיים עלינו בכל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו בכל ישראל וכל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל. כך כתוב בתורתך ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Kedishatom, Mourner's Kaddish, if you are marking a yard site or in a period of mourning, please rise and remain standing. We'll say Mourner's Kaddish together at the top of page 232. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba, be'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malkute, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיא וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וכל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. Shabbat shalom everybody. So we're gonna have a little bit of extra time since we skipped the Torah service. So let's come back together in just a little over 10 minutes and we're gonna get started with some learning. Okay? Great. Help yourself to get some food. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
That's a CPA.
Where are they?
Very excited for this.
Oh yeah?
This is a doc.
I'm talking about the
Yeah.
This is a doc married to a doc. She has 4 kids, 3 adopted. The youngest is a small one. She married a teacher. She's a teacher. She married a doc.
What's your neighbor?
Two parents. Good.
I could have put it at your seat. So you make it go back.
Did I miss it? I guess I did. It's next week, okay. Will I hear it on Monday? Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Brian, Shabbat shalom.
Well, I hope you did when, yeah, me too, me too. Alright, don't let me stop you from getting to it, I just wanted to check out.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, Cookie Monster. Yeah, Cookie Monster.
I do give him a cake in my mouth.
You might wanna wait for
Yeah, you are so funny, babe.
Thanks.
Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going.
cookie.
Oh yeah, we get.
Oh, man. Don't forget we have our beautiful new sink over here.
Ooh. Nice, new sink too.
Yeah.
Per use cost goes down every time we use it.
What'd you say?
So the per use cost goes down every time. we
Exactly,
use it, so
exactly.
We gotta.
We gotta pay that thing off.
It's a great title to dovetail with Rabbi Schatz's teaching.
Yeah, I feel like we all
Somebody
happen to
thought
like,
it was
I mean,
my
like,
grandma.
like,
Oh, it was very nice.
I don't know, it's very easy to like talk about some of the stuff, but I think everything kinda, all the story that we've been putting out this weekend kinda came together nicely, so.
Yeah. I kinda was thinking on a different meaning for it too. When I went home, I was like, to me it also kind of could be like, lest you think this requires any less than your like complete and utter enthusiasm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
surprisingly
Do
early.
not think that you're being, that it's enough to just be pulled and do your thing. You'll just be another Noah who did what he was supposed to.
Surprisingly early.
No, it's swamp.
Wait, say that again, say that one more time.
So
We're around.
that
Yeah,
must
you
go
know,
for yourself.
90 minutes before development.
less.
Yes,
than
It's
they
about
had
the third.
by going
They had
through
it,
yourself that you find
yesterday.
free, but also because this one requires your absolute and complete enthusiasm.
Right, like can't be any resistance necessarily.
Yeah, you
Just
cannot
like-
feel like.
You know, if it's
Right,
later,
like not in
yeah,
this,
there.
right, okay, I like that, I like that, it's like not in the sense of like, don't resist my command, but like, actually I want you to go because you want to go, not because I want you to.
This thing doesn't work if you don't do it that way.
Right.
You won't be able.
Mm-hmm. That's great, I like that.
Maybe that's the covenant, right? The covenant is desiring to be in the covenant.
Again, actively, it's like, it's this idea of, you know, we have this term, like Jews by choice, which is such an interesting term, but I think I gave a class or I can't remember what I did about this, but like, at the end of the day, we're all Jews by choice, and that sounds like flat in a certain experience, but that being a Jew requires daily investment and like a constant engagement, you know?
Right, it could
Because
hurt
it's like,
yourself, huh?
if they're Jews by choice, then other
That's
Jews
Jews
against their
against-
will, that
Oh,
isn't,
really?
maybe, you know?
You okay?
Yeah, but like if you're
Maybe
here,
okay.
you're a Jew, if like you walk into this space or walk into any Jewish space,
When did
space
it
you're
hurt?
actively making a choice to express your Judaism and to be a Jew.
You know what?
You know? But it
When?
requires kind of like what you're saying, that like that constant engagement and that like genuine desire, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Cause then
I
you're,
was gonna chew first, that's why I didn't
I
answer you.
just think of.
A June first?
No, I
There's an
wanted to
SNL
chew
skit
it
in there
first.
somewhere.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't answer you first. I
You
didn't wanna talk to
imagine.
you about
I'm
it.
sorry. Yeah.
Slaves, for example, right? Abraham goes,
Yeah.
28
that's great
number
news.
one.
Oh, wow.
Gospel to me. There's one
Wow,
thing going.
wait, how did you get hurt?
Yeah. Yeah. That probably,
That
that would go over well
requires-
with the crowd,
Yeah.
maybe a small group of people, you know?
I would say that requires enthusiasm.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would, yeah, yeah, yes.
Okay.
Speaking from personal experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I hope it's okay. My grandma is now looking down on me right now.
I'm like nervous, I don't wanna like damage it, you know? I
I
wonder if we
know,
should
they
bring
keep
coasters or
saying-
something for the,
She must be saying, you did not let me down.
Great.
She said you didn't let me down.
He said, I wouldn't be shy about using
Made her proud.
actions,
Yeah.
because that's what everyone else does.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, but I remember the date.
We're gonna hire someone who's recommended, or someone you know, or someone who just someone cool. I think, you know, this is so.
And I remember my other grandma church
Yeah,
For Mari, does anybody in here have a chiyuv that you know of?
that's a great question. I don't know. Does anybody have a chiyuv for tonight
Are you-
to lead Mari?
Leonard has a yard site, is that the question?
Yeah, yeah. In that case, Leonard, would you like to lead Mari? Okay,
Okay,
sure.
I always ask that.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate it. Appreciate it. We're just gonna get started here in a minute. No rush to get your food, but just want to give you a heads up.
I got a theory that because Jews ritualized hand washing,
Mm-hmm.
they were cleaner throughout much of history.
Yeah.
So when they don't die from the Black Death
Mhm.
at the same rates, they're like witchcraft when it's just
Well, that's
we
actually
washed our hands.
that's completely in many ways accurate. Like I remember learning in Jake's class. I don't know if you probably aren't going to take his history class until the next year or two, but he discusses how Jews were mysteriously avoiding the plague at a higher rate than anybody else. It was because we didn't live like English peasants in the sort of the medieval period with livestock in our homes, and also we went to the mikveh regularly, which meant we were bathing and we were washing our hands more because of ritualized hand washing. So there really is something to it. Not that totally wards off the plague, but it's like basic hygiene that was ritualized that did help produce better outcomes. So yeah, you're really onto something there. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're gonna go ahead and get started here. All of you should have a source sheet in front of you. If you don't, here, let's see. Does anybody not have a source sheet? Okay, great. So as you can see, we have a little bit of a different setup here. We have this beautiful new bima, this beautiful new shulchan. And as a result, we're sort of figuring out, at least I can speak for myself, I'm figuring out where to put things and how to organize everything. But you may notice that right now we don't have the little hand mic. So I typically during these shiurim, we ask participants if they're comfortable with it to sort of give your answer to questions into the microphone. But since we don't have that right now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is do a lot of reflecting back of what folks are saying for the benefit of people on Zoom and later on the podcasts, the many podcasts that Norm so wonderfully puts all these classes and sermons on. And great. So as you can see, you have the source sheet in front of you, and the class is called How Good It Should Be to Dwell Together. So I'm starting here at the top with the first source with a pasuk, verse from Breshit, actually, because I don't know about you, but I feeling this sense of whiplash with how quickly we're already going through the book of Genesis, the book of Breshit, and I wanted to sort of take a step back and slow it down a little bit, and see if we can look at give some of our more fundamental stories just a little bit more airtime. Can I get a volunteer? Actually, no, I'm just going to read the first verse in English, and then we'll ask some questions. So right at the top of the page there, God said, "It is not good for the human to be alone. I will make a fitting counterpart for him." Vayomer Adonai Elohim lo tov heyot ha'adam levado, e'aseh lo ezer kenegdo. So what is this in reference to? Creation of Chava, creation of women. The creation of Adam's partner, the first person. Great. What else is going on around this story?
Well, it's funny because in that text it says we'll make him a fitting helper, and then it goes on to describe all of the other living beings
Right.
that God is creating, right?
Yeah. So what Diego is referring to is this parade of that happens during creation when Adam is already created. Now everything has been created at this point, except for Chava, except for Eve, as we translate in English. And then God says, it's not good for a person to be by themselves, so let me try to find Adam a fitting helper, a fitting Ezer Kenegdo. So God marches these animals in front of in front of Adam, and Adam's like, no, not this one, no, not this one, no, not this one. And you can sort of imagine this parade of like, how about an elephant? No. How about a donkey? No. How about a parakeet? It's like, absolutely not. And then finally, God sort of, in a way, realizes, oh, maybe Adam needs to be with someone who's a little bit more like himself. And so, and of course, the story goes, as a lot of us understand it, and the rabbis understand it, that a deep sleep falls upon Adam, and God takes out a rib from Adam and forms that into Chava, into Eve, and then boom, suddenly you have two human beings. Great. So let's look at the next source, the Ibn Ezra commentary on this verse. So Ibn Ezra, one of my favorite commentators, great medieval commentator. Typically, he has these very short comments that are grammatically based, which if you're a language nerd or language lover like myself, and I know a number of people in this room, can be very helpful. So this is a little bit more of a kind of I would say pragmatic read, which is how he sort of does things, more like what's going on here in actuality. Can I have someone just read in the English what Ibn Ezra says? So he's commenting on the Ezra Kenegdo, the helpmeet. Does anybody want to read the English? Yeah, go ahead.
A helpmeet should be understood in the light of two are better than one.
Great. A helpmeet should be understood in the light of two are better than one. It's a pretty universal adage. Two heads are better than one. It's better not to do things alone. Or if you've ever gotten anything from IKEA, oftentimes we'll say like, oh, this is a team lift. You know, you should get somebody to lift this for you so you don't throw out your back, like I definitely have done in the past. So this seems like a very basic and evident sort of notion, but I want us to sort of spend some time here and talk about why it's good for someone to not be alone. Or maybe I can ask the question more in the positive. Why should we be with other people? If you want to just take a second to think about it, and then go ahead and just raise your hands, and I'll call on you. And again, reflect back the answers for the technological aspect of things.
It's lonely to be by yourself.
So Irv is saying it's lonely to be by yourself, right? Yeah?
We're flawed in different ways and at different times. So someone else might be complementary, but also even if we were up to the task today, maybe in a week we might need someone to help carry the load as we go through a load.
Okay, so it's in a way, if I can just, so it's good to have someone who could complement us, but also help us on those moments when we just can't do things by ourselves. Is that more or less what you're saying? Yeah, I think that's great. You know, we often think about, you know, matches with friendships, matches with couples, how it works, how it doesn't work. And in any relationship, there are definitely those moments where you're like, I got it. I can carry the torch for us today. And the next day it's like, all right, it's your turn. I can't. I'm exhausted. You know? Great. What else? Why else is it good to be with people? Yeah, Joey.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Yeah, there's that team lift idea coming back in. Can you say a little bit more about that, though?
Well, let's see. Because sometimes it can be boring to be alone.
It would be boring to be alone. That's actually really that's a great statement too. It would be boring to be alone. Yeah.
You have a lot of time on your hands and nobody to spend it with.
A lot of time on your hands and no one to spend it with.
Somebody to spend the time with.
Right.
So you don't be alone.
Right.
And you don't be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. There's this. The first thing that comes to mind is the classic person on a stranded desert island, and the question of like, well, if you could eat one food on that desert island, what would it be? Or one book, and then of course the other question is, if you could spend the rest of your life on this desert island with a single person, who would it be? Which is a big question because
I would be with this guy.
yeah, that's great. It's beautiful. But yeah, teamwork makes the dream work, and it can be lonely being by oneself. Any other ideas? Again, I want to just dig into this a little bit more just to see what else. What are the reflections? So the question again is, why is it good to be with other people? Why is it good to not be alone?
Because you can help one another, and you can get the job done if you're at work, and you and your coworker work as a team. You get the job done.
Right, you can work together and sort of become, through working together, really get to know how the other person works, how the people work, what their strengths are, maybe what some of the weaknesses
What
are.
their weakness, their strengths,
Exactly.
what are their beliefs.
Mm-hmm. What are their beliefs? And
Beliefs.
in a way, there's if you've ever worked on a team or sung in a choir or danced in a dance troupe or played in a team sport, you learn that when you're working with a group of people doing something towards a common goal, oftentimes in varying levels of synchrony, there's actually this like natural human sort of gelling that happens where you almost become one unit. It's really really beautiful. I can just speaking to experiences when I was in high school in show choir when we were singing and dancing. It's very very cheesy, but I loved it, and a lot of people do. So I don't want to knock it too much. But we would do these breathing exercises where we would all breathe together, right? And at first it sounds like, oh, all right, is this like a meditation? What is it? But it's so we're actually tuning our bodies to one another, right? So then we actually do become a kind of single unit. I remember doing this in a choir in college as well, because when you're singing any kind of choral work, you're not only are you making notes about like cutoffs, like where the phrase should end, but specifically like where you should take a breath and when you should take a breath. There's this thing called staggered breathing in choral work, which is very much, it requires many people. It could be that the sopranos can hold out this really long, half the sopranos can hold out this really long note and the other half can't, right? So the half that can holds it out and the other ones take maybe a breath a third of the way through and then hold the last third, whereas the other sopranos maybe take a breath 2/3 of the way through and then sing the last third. So it's as if it's just one wall of sound, one voice. And so you have this cohesion that happens, which I think is just so beautiful on so many levels, which brings us to this next source from Breshit Rabbah. So Breshit Rabbah is a Talmudic era midrash on the book of Breshit and the book of Genesis. Excuse me, should drink a little bit of water here. And I would love if I could just have a volunteer read in the English for us here. Yeah, Joey, thank you.
Rabbi Yirmiyah ben Elazar said, when the Holy One, blessed be God, created Adam the first man, God created him androgynous. That is what is written. God created them male and female. Rabbi Shmuel ben Nachman said, when the Holy One, blessed be God, created Adam the first man, God created him with two faces, and subsequently God sawed him in two and made for him two backs, a back here and a back there.
So pause, thank you. So we have this image of sort of the first person actually not just being Adam, right? We have this idea of Adam HaRishon, which means the first person. And in this sort of interpretation of what that meant, who that person was, excuse me, Rabbi Shmuel ben Bar Nachman says that actually, if we can picture it, like it was, just for lack of a better term, Adam and Eve, right? But as like one human being with their backs almost joined, almost like conjoined twins. And that's how they created. And that's, in a way, what you're saying when he uses the word androgynous in the Hebrew here. It's actually a Greek word. You'll find a lot of Greek words, especially in the Midrash and also in the Talmud in places, which is very interesting. But androgynous, which you translate as androgynous, meaning that it has both, this being has characteristics that are interpreted as both male and female, however we may interpret that. And there's this thing happens, right? Where actually before I go on, I'm just so curious. How does this image sit with you? Like, what is it? Is this something you've heard before? Is this something you haven't heard before? Like, what do you make of this? Yeah, please.
Something similar appears in Plato.
Oh, interesting. Say more.
The character Aristophanes has a similar idea. They're trying to answer where does love come from. And it says, well, back in the prehistoric times, there were these beings with 4 arms and 4 legs, and you would be male and female, or male and male, or female and female, and then you were split into 2. So love is the longing for your other half.
Oh, that is so beautiful. So we're just told that there's a similar idea in the works of Plato by, is this Aristophanes is saying this? So Aristophanes saying that a similar story, that we're created as these creatures with with 4 legs, which would be very much like this particular creature that we're imagining. And then he is split into 2, and the result of that splitting is the answer to the question of where does love come from, and the love is the desire to be joined together again. Is that right? Right. And which is so interesting. It's a sort of Greek idea, and then here we see it with the Greek word androgynous in our own Midrashic text. That's really, really remarkable. Thank you. Yeah, Joey.
Can we continue? Or tell me when?
Oh, I just want to get a couple other reflections before we move on.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I can picture these two-faced dolls you sometimes see.
Oh.
Yeah, where one face on one side, the other face on the other side. It's kind of like that. That's what I picture when reading this.
Right. So like in actuality, like what it looks like and what that's great. The sort of 2-headed dolls.
Yeah.
What it looks like to me is almost like cat dog.
Cat dog.
Cat dog. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
cartoon from Nickelodeon. It's like the cat and the dog together.
Yeah.
So what face has this side? What face is the other
Yeah.
side? It's like that basically.
Yeah.
They're stuck together.
Yeah. So
I mean, there's another part where it's like you have 2 faces, so I'm imagining literally Two-Face from the comic books, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like male.
Right, there are definitely some resonances in like pop culture and cartoons about what I mean, like what images could this bring to mind. You had a comment right here. Yeah.
So we know the conventional text where God takes a rib or something from Adam and then turns it into the female. But this is really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
stating that to start with, this person had the female within them
Mm-hmm.
both male and female. So it's a kind of an enhancement of when you think about separating them, that and creating the female, that there were already the parts of the female were so much a part of the person to start with.
Right. I can't help but think about again, conjoined twins. There are.
That's just what I was thinking about.
Yeah. There are a lot of testimonies from folks who are born conjoined to their twins, and at a certain point, if they desire to have a surgery that is safe to have them sort of uncoupled from one another, like most twins, but even more intensely, there's this like feeling as if you're really missing a part of yourself. Not saying that is everyone's experience, but there are some testimonies from folks who've had the experience. They're like, yeah, I don't feel the same. It was life changing, but something is fundamentally that was a part of me is somehow no longer a part of me, which I think is really I think it's beautiful. Like yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on? No?
Just that David's comment about love reminds me of learning the idiom in my Spanish class, media naranja.
Mm-hmm. Can you translate it for everybody in the room?
Media naranja means half of an orange.
Uh-huh.
So like your other half of the orange makes the orange whole.
Uh-huh.
Is your media naranja.
Right.
I was just thinking about that
Nice.
phrase and that image because it's a very similar image.
Right. So Brian was saying it just brought to mind this idea from his Spanish class of media naranja, which means half of an orange. Of like if you can just picture the 2 oranges and bringing them together in a whole to see what that would. That's a cool visual too. I think that's fun. Great. We're gonna flip the page. We're gonna move on to Avot Rabbi Natan, the source just right in the middle of the page there. If I could have another volunteer read in the English, that would be great. Thank you. Yeah.
When evening began to descend, Adam looked toward the darkening horizon and said, "Woe is me, because I disgraced myself. The Holy Blessed One is bringing darkness upon my world." He did not know that this was simply the way of the world. In the morning, when he saw that the world began to brighten from the east, he felt an overwhelming sense of joy. So he went and he built altars and brought a bull.
Great. Thank you. So what's happening here in this scene? Can you say? Night and day. The first night. Great. So I had never really thought about this idea until recently this past week, which is why when I really learned about this source, which is why I brought it. But just imagine you're created whole with your as an adult, right? It feels very sci-fi. But you don't know anything about the world. And the sky has the sun and clouds, and the sky is full of light. And in a way, you maybe know that you came from darkness and then you're in this light place, right? And then suddenly the sun begins to go down, right? and it's just anxiety provoking because you're like provoking because it's like, oh my god, is the world ending? What's happening? There's something so profound about this world that I just was dropped into that's changing. And there are actually, especially in the ancient Near East, there are stories about the moon and the sun, not just in the ancient Near East, but in like ancient Greece and ancient Rome. There is this tale, if I may not remember it all correctly, but from Canaanite religion, where the sun sort of goes down, and there's this belief that it actually moves its way through the underworld and then comes back up. So sort of ancient peoples were looking at the movements of the sun and the moon and associating it with life and death. And this is very much what Adam is doing here, right? He's like, oh my god, it's over. I was just born, and we did all this work, and I got to name all these animals, and now it's gonna be over. What aside from what I just said, like how does this land with you? Like, do you have anything additional to add? Because I would love to hear what you all in this room make of this specific midrash.
It reminds me of how my anxiety rises when the internet goes out.
Well, so it reminds him of when his anxiety goes up when the internet goes out.
You know what I mean? Or spectrum outage. You know, it's like an unexplained occurrence happening in my
Right.
life.
It's like a fundamental thing in your life is suddenly no longer available. Right. Yes, please.
Well, and it's similar to this, where Adam says, "What did I do wrong? It must be my fault. I did something wrong." Do you think, "Oh, did you do something
No,
wrong?"
I'm just
You're
pissed
innocent?
at that's all.
Did I inflict something?
Yeah.
But yeah, Adam thinks right away, "Oh, I must have done something wrong. This is my fault."
Right.
So then he's especially happy when he sees the sun and it's brightening and okay,
Yeah.
so everything's okay.
Which is interesting. Just okay, 1 second. But which is interesting because like Adam's experience. So what was just said is, what was drawn out was Adam thinks that Adam did something wrong to make this happen. And if you can just imagine your entire experience is there is this all powerful being, and then there are a bunch of animals in this world that all powerful being created, and then there's you, right? It would actually make sense for you to think like, wow, okay, I see power, I see creation all around me. Maybe I have some sort of hand in this. I have some sort of role in this because that's your immediate experience. And of course, this can be, but if we like step back from that aspect of the story, I think it's also very easy for us to sort of take this on in our own lives and be like, what did I do to make this happen? And it could just be that there was a spectrum outage, and like, no matter how much you unplug or plug in your modem, it's just not gonna get fixed, and you just have to say, all right, this is out of my hands. Great, you had a.
It's actually a reflection on the human condition that persists to this day.
Mm-hmm.
So anxiety around the time of sundown
Mm-hmm.
is a real condition. You see it with babies,
Mm-hmm.
they get colicky around sundown time.
Mm-hmm.
You see it with elderly folks and folks with dementia. It's literally called sundowning.
Right.
And so there is this kind of human condition to get almost primal, to become anxious when the sun is set, it's gone, it's getting dark out.
Right. So there's this primal anxiety that is even expressed through this term and perhaps a condition called sundowning in human beings. I'm just repeating everything because of that. Yeah. That can cause, a cascade of specific reactions or anxiety. Oftentimes it can affect people's memory depending on what's going on in their body and their minds, which is such an interesting thing to bring up right now because we're in the midst of getting used to the clocks changing again. I know I couldn't believe by the time I woke up from my nap, I was like, oh, I gotta go back already, and by the time the sun goes down, I know that I turn into a pumpkin, but it does. It changes the way in which our minds and bodies operate, which is interesting. Yeah, and Joey, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, to expand on what she was saying, there's also another thing called SAD, seasonal affective disorder.
Seasonal affective disorder, right?
Which happens to some people. We get depressed because of reduced hours of sunlight, especially starting this time of the year.
Right.
Yeah, but it's worse. Obviously, it's worse the farther north or south of the equator you are.
Right. So a sort of another kind of conditional thing brought up that there's this thing called seasonal affective disorder that can really impact folks when the seasons change, for I think typically for the worse, right? If I'm understanding that correctly.
When we get to the winter solstice, especially.
Right.
It's easier for us.
Right. And it's interesting because in those moments, I think we come back to the question like, would it be beneficial to have somebody else around during that time? I mean, I'm getting a nods in the room. It'd be like, yeah, we probably shouldn't be alone in those moments, right? Like, probably shouldn't be sitting alone with that existential dread or sudden dip in mood because something's happening around you that's changing your inner life. And my teacher, Rabbi Candice Levy, who teaches our Pirkei Avot class, brought sort of an additional interpretation to this midrash. Excuse me, I gotta stop drinking the coffee up here. Midrash, and I just thought it was so beautiful. So her take on this story was that what Adam really needed in this moment of anxiety was someone to just sit there with him, and it's as simple as that, right? When we talk about visiting the sick, Bikur Cholim, which is a mitzvah to visit the sick, there's this idea that when we simply spend time with them, we have the capacity to take on or relieve them of 1/60th of their pain, right? It's this number. It's a very like halachic number that sort of kind of comes out of nowhere, but it speaks to this idea of like we don't always have to know what to say or how to say it, but simply just being present can be enough to change the course of someone's day, someone's week, someone's night in this particular case. And then she added that Adam was anxiety ridden about this darkness, right? This darkness, the first night he's ever experienced. And then Eve or Chava is there, and she points up, she's like, but do you see all these stars? Do you see all this light? Do you see all this light in the darkness? And it speaks a little bit of what Diego was saying earlier about how when there are going to be some days where we can kind of do it all, where we can sort of see the light, we can see the stars, we can see the sun and really take it all in. Then there are going to be other days where we really can't. And it's helpful to have somebody there who hopefully can sort of share that burden with us, share that load with us and say like, actually, I hear what you're saying. And it's a very real experience, but like what I'm seeing right now is I'm seeing stars. And maybe you don't see that right now, but maybe I can help you see it. And if not, maybe we can just sit here together. And I would like to move to just this last source here. So this is from Tehillim, from Psalms, and it's a song that I'm sure that a lot of us know. And the Hebrew is how good and pleasant it is for people to dwell together. It translates achim as brothers because that's what it literally means. I'm going to translate it as people. And Rashi comments on this and basically says, when people dwell together, God also dwells with them, right? So this being together, this sitting with one another is actually a really holy act, and it can seem so simple. We're in this moment where so many folks we're asking ourselves, what can we do, if anything at all? And sometimes the answer is just sit together, and that's that. You know, ask ourselves what's within our power and what's without our power, and say maybe I just need to be present, and I don't need to think about saying the right thing or the wrong thing. It could just be that it's not good for a person to be alone, whatever it is that they're experiencing in this very moment, and I should call on people in those moments to be with me, and they should call on me to be with them. And with that, I want to just close and just thank you for engaging in this learning. It was a real pleasure to hear everything that y'all had to say. And we're gonna move on to Birkat Matzon. The blessings after eating. Anybody who ate bread, are you willing to? Joey, would you like to lead? Okay, great. So Joey's gonna lead us in Birkat Matzon, which is on page
42 or 47, depending on which version. These eventually using which version.
Great, thank you.
42 and this one.
Yes.
Yeah, the one with the Hebrews on the right, you'll have it on page 42. If it's on the left, it's page 47.
Amazing, thank you.
Shir
Ha לעשותי מלך, הגדיל אדוני
לעשותי מלך, היינו לשמחים, תשובה אדוני את שביתנו, כפיתים בנגב, הזורים קדימה, ברינה יזורו, הלוך ילכו בחום, נושא משך הזרע, בו יבוא ברינה, נושא אלומותיו. רבותיי נברך.
יהי שם אדוני מברך מאת עולם.
יהי שם אדוני מברך מאת עולם. בישום רנם רבותיי נברך אלוהינו שחלנו משלו.
ברוך אלוהינו שחלנו משלו טובו חיינו.
ברוך אלוהינו שחלנו משלו טובו חיינו.
ברוך שמו.
ברוך
אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם. אהרון את העולם הוא טוב בטובו וכן בחסד וברחמים. תן לחם לכל בשר כי לעולם חסון וטובו הגדול תמיד לא חסר לנו ואי חסר לנו מזון לעולם ועד עבור שמו הגדול אנו פרנס לכל ומכין מזון לכל בריאותיו אשר ברא ברוך אתה אדוני חזן את הכל. שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. We rise on page 38 for Kaddish Rabbanan. If you are observing Yartzeit or in a period of mourning, we'll say Kaddish Rabbanan together. Yit Gadal V'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah Balma Divra Kiyurte V'Yamlich Malkute V'Chayechon V'Yomechon V'Chayed Kol Beit Yisrael Hagala V'Zman Kari V'Imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mebarak Le'Lam U'Almei Armaya Yit Barach V'Yishtabach V'Yit Par V'Yit Ramam V'Yit Naseh V'Yit Hadar V'Yit Haleh V'Yit Halal Shemei L'Kudsha Leila min kom birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru Hal Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Talmidehon v'al kol Talmidehon v'al kol ma'an de'oskin b'oraita di v'atra haden v'di b'chol atar v'atar yehei lechon u'lechon shlam araba chine v'chiste v'rachamin v'chayin arichin u'mezunah ravicha ופורקנה מן קודם אבוהון דשמיא ואמרו יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו עושה שלום במרומיו הוא ברחמיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו. Turn to page 264 for the Baruch Hu. Please rise. רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית והרבה להשיבה פה ולא יאיר כל חמתו. ה' ישיע מלך יעננו ויום קורנו. ברכו את ה' המבורך. ברוך ה' המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך מעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. ה' צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אמרי ברבי ותעלם בית ישראל. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו והם נגי יומם ולילה ואהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
Adonai Elohechem emet. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל הכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה Izeli anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed Ne'emar kifedar Adonai et Yaakov Galo miyar chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Shalom. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ולשלום את אביעד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני שומר עמו ישראל ברוך אדוני לעולם אמן ואמן. כי המלכות שלך היא עולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו. Hatzikadesh, please rise. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמד דברה קידותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל. בגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה ושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. Hatzi Kaddish at the top of page 279. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה קיוטי והמליך מלכותי בחי חורב יום החורב חי תכל בית ישראל, פגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלמא מעלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירמה וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו, העילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. הנה אמר אדוני אלוהינו עלינו מעשה. ויקראני ונהו עמו אנוכי בצרה אכלתהו ואכבדהו אורך ימים אשביעהו ואראהו בשועתי, אורך ימים אשביעהו ואראהו בשועתי. So we're going to hold that page and we'll flip to page 216 for תקדוש. ותקדוש יושב תהילות ישראל כרזה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות ברכת כבודו. ותישאני רוח ואשמע אחרי כל רעש גדול, ברוך הוא אדוני ממקומו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צדקתך צדק לעולם ותורתך אמת, ייתן אמת ליעקב חסד לאברהם, אשר נשבעת לאבותינו מימי קדם, ברוך אדוני יום יום יעמוס לנו אל ישועתנו סלע. לצבאות עמנו משכב לנו. ויפתחו בך יודעי שמך, כי לא עזבת דורשך אדוני, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה ויאדיר. Flip back to page 280 for Kaddish Shalem. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחי חורב יום החורב חי תכל בית ישראל, פגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם מעלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירמה וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. תתכבד צלות ההון ובבטון לכל ישראל כל מבהון דשמיא ואמרו אמן. יש למה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו בכל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ברממיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו בכל ישראל וכל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עלינו page 281. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל. ככתוב בתורתך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. קדיש תום, מורנר's קדיש. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. בעלמא דברה קיוטה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ועולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהודה ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרב אמין שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו ועושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וכל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. Shavua Tov, everyone. Joey, do you want to lead us in Havdalah?
Okay.
Amazing. So if somebody could get the lights.
I'll get, where the
Awesome.
lights?
There we go. There we go. All right. So speaking of changes in light and darkness, this is we just turned off the lights and it
And the
is
sky's dark.
and the sky is dark, but it's a really special moment to add a little bit of light to that darkness as we sort of discussed in our shiur. And so Joey's going to lead us on Havdalah, which we can be found on page 283. Take this.
Hine el Yeshuati, Evtach v'lo epchad, Ki ozi v'zimrat yah, Adonai v'yehi li lishua, Ushavtem mayim b'sason, Mimayne ha-Yeshua, L'Adonai ha-Yeshua, Alamecha v'chatecha sela, Adonai Tzivaot imanu, Miskav lanu, Elohei Yaakov Selah, Adonai Tzivaot, Ashrei Adam Boteach Bach, Adonai Hoshia, Hamelech Ya'anenu v'yom koreinu la Yehudim Hayeta ora v'simcha v'sason v'kar kain tihye lanu kos Yeshuot esa uv'shem Adonai ekra yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 nai. Is repeat?
Yes.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim. Yai nai 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 yai nai 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 yai nai. Ya nai 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 ya nai 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 ya 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 nai 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 ya nai 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 Ya nai 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 ya nai 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 ya nai 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 ya nai 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 ya nai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ha'mavdil ben kodesh lichol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael lamim ben yom hashvi sheshem yom ha'aseh. Baruch atah Adonai ha'mavdil ben kodesh lichol.
the many hours left in your evening. I know you could. Yeah, you could watch Titanic twice.
Hi, Turtle.
Somebody grab the light.
Roberto. Hey, Roberto.
Thank you.
Yeah, before they.
I don't know, but it is helpful here. So yeah. You're right, but it is.
You
helpful.
too.
Thank you, Joey. That was beautiful.
You're surviving.
Yeah, see you.
Here. What are you talking about?